Ravi walked down the mountain with a heart full of gentle emotions. The letters he had read in the hidden tomb stayed fixed in his thoughts. Each message felt like a warm light guiding him toward something new. When he reached the lower path, he paused under a tall tree and took a long breath. The mountain air felt different now. It felt richer, softer, and filled with quiet meaning. He sat on a smooth stone to rest. The breeze touched his face like a soft hand. Birds sang in the distance, and the rustling leaves moved in small waves across the branches. Ravi closed his eyes for a moment. The writer of the letters had described a hidden clearing near a stream, a place where sunlight formed patterns that made the heart feel light. The writer had said it was a favorite spot, a place where thoughts grew clear. Ravi wanted to find that clearing. He wanted to sit where the writer once sat and feel the same calm. After resting a little longer, Ravi stood up and looked around. The slope he had climbed earlier stretched behind him. Tall trees lined the path, and small stones marked places where the ground dipped. He remembered the stream he had crossed earlier in the day. If the writer had visited a clearing near a stream, it might be close to where Ravi had passed. He turned and walked back toward the higher ground. The sun had moved across the sky, but there was still plenty of daylight. As he walked, he listened carefully to the sounds of the forest. Leaves rustled gently. Birds called from high branches. But one familiar sound he hoped to hear again was the soft flow of water. After walking for some time, he heard it faintly. The quiet, steady sound of water moving over stones called to him like a distant song. He followed the sound through the trees until he reached a narrow stream. The water sparkled under the sunlight, forming tiny points of light that danced with each movement. He smiled softly. This was the same stream he had crossed earlier. He stepped onto the bank and looked upstream. The writer had mentioned a clearing, but had not given directions. Ravi knew he had to trust his senses. The stream wound gently between the trees, curving with natural grace. Ferns grew thick along the edges, their long leaves arching toward the water. He moved carefully along the bank, making sure not to disturb any plants. His footsteps were soft. He breathed in the fresh smell of water and earth. After walking a short distance, Ravi reached a place where the trees grew farther apart. Sunlight poured through the branches more freely, creating bright patches across the ground. The stream widened there, forming a shallow pool. The water was so clear that he could see tiny fish swimming inside. The sight filled him with warm delight. He crouched down and touched the surface lightly with his fingertips. The coolness spread through his skin and reminded him of mornings from his childhood when he played near small lakes with his friends. He stood again and looked to his right. Beyond the trees, he saw an open stretch of ground covered in soft grass. The sunlight here was brighter and warmer than any place he had seen earlier on the mountain. The grass swayed in slow waves, moving with the wind as if dancing to a gentle rhythm. Ravi felt his heart beat a little faster. This place matched the writer's description. It looked calm and peaceful, touched by light in a delicate way. He stepped into the clearing slowly, letting the moment settle around him. The clearing was larger than he expected. It was shaped like an oval, and the ground felt soft beneath his shoes. The surrounding trees created a natural boundary, making the space feel safe and private. Ravi felt as if he had stepped into a secret garden, shaped by sunlight and silence. At the center of the clearing was a flat stone half covered in moss. The stone looked smooth, as if someone had sat on it many times. Ravi walked toward it and placed his hand on the surface. The stone felt warm from the sun. He smiled gently, imagining the writer sitting on the same stone long ago. Ravi sat down and let the silence wrap around him. The sunlight formed long, soft beams that crossed the clearing at different angles. Some landed on the grass, creating bright green patches. Others slipped through leaves, forming moving patterns that looked like glowing threads. Ravi watched these shapes with calm eyes. He felt lighter in this place, as if the air carried away all heavy thoughts. A few moments passed, and then he took out his notebook. He had brought it to record simple observations or feelings. But he realized now that he wanted to write about the letters, the tomb, and the clearing. He felt the need to capture everything before it faded from memory. He opened the notebook gently and began writing. At first, his handwriting was slow. He described how he discovered the hidden door under the vines, how the air inside the tomb felt cool and still, and how the letters had touched his heart. He wrote about the pendant shaped like a leaf, the gentle symbol carved on the wall, and the writer's thoughts on kindness. As he wrote, he felt a warm sense of gratitude. He realized that writing helped him understand his feelings more clearly. He paused and looked around the clearing again. The sunlight had shifted slightly as the afternoon progressed. The shadows of the trees stretched across the grass, creating new shapes. A small bird hopped along the ground near the stream, searching for insects. Ravi watched the bird for a moment, admiring its soft movements and light steps. Nature always offered small moments of beauty to those who paid attention. Ravi turned to his notebook and wrote about the writer's tradition of the morning of promise. The idea of standing on the mountain peak during the first sunrise of each season filled him with wonder. He imagined how beautiful the sunrise must look from the highest point. He imagined the writer standing there with his family, sharing gentle wishes for the world. The thought made his heart swell with admiration. He wrote slowly and steadily, filling pages with his reflections. When he looked up again, the sun had shifted lower in the sky. Its light became warmer, turning the clearing into a soft golden space. Ravi closed his notebook and rested it on his lap. He leaned back slightly, supporting himself with his hands on the stone. The view felt peaceful and comforting. Ravi began thinking about the writer's life. The writer had lived a simple life filled with thoughtful actions. He had cared for nature, respected every living thing, and believed in the power of kindness. Ravi wondered if he could follow a similar path. He did not have to change everything about his life. Even small actions could bring meaning to each day. He could help someone carry groceries, share fruit with a neighbor, or plant a tree near the edge of the village. These small acts felt within reach and filled him with hope. As he reflected, Ravi heard the soft rustling of leaves behind him. He turned slightly and saw a small squirrel climbing a tree. Its movements were quick but gentle. It paused halfway up the trunk and looked at him with curious eyes. Ravi smiled, feeling a natural connection to the creature. He lifted his hands slowly and gave a small wave. The squirrel blinked once, then continued climbing. Moments like this reminded Ravi how alive the forest was. Every creature played a part in the peaceful rhythm of nature. He turned his attention back to the clearing. The warm light made him feel calm and present. He wanted to stay a while longer, to fully experience the atmosphere of the place. He lay back on the grass gently, resting his head on his folded arms. The sky above him was bright blue, with soft white clouds drifting slowly across. The gentle wind brushed his hair and carried the sweet scent of wildflowers while gazing at the sky. Memories from his childhood floated into his thoughts. He remembered walking through fields with his father, picking small yellow flowers to take home. He remembered his mother preparing warm meals while humming quiet tunes. These memories filled him with comfort. Life had always offered moments of warmth, even during difficult times. The letters helped him realize how important it was to treasure such moments. As the day continued, Ravi sat up again and looked at the flow of the stream. He stood and walked closer to the water. The surface reflected patches of sunlight, making it look like a sheet of tiny stars. He crouched down and touched the water again. It felt cool and refreshing. He cupped some water in his hands and let it fall back into the stream with soft ripples. Ravi wondered how many times the writer had visited this place. He imagined the writer sitting here during warm afternoons, watching birds and listening to the stream. He imagined the writer thinking, planning, or simply resting. The clearing felt like a place where worries faded and new ideas grew gently. He sat beside the stream for a while. Then he took out his notebook again and wrote a small promise to himself. He promised to return to the clearing often. He promised to care for the mountain and respect the natural world. He promised to practice kindness in small and steady ways. He did not write these promises for anyone else to see. He wrote them for himself. They felt true and sincere. As he finished writing, he noticed the sun beginning to set. The golden light deepened and grew richer. The clearing now looked like a painting filled with warm colors. Ravi knew it was time to leave for the day. He stood slowly, brushing bits of grass from his clothes. He looked around one last time, letting his eyes take in every detail of the peaceful clearing before stepping away. He bowed his head gently to the space. It was not a formal gesture. It was a simple sign of gratitude. The clearing had given him clarity and comfort. He wanted to honor that feeling. Ravi stood in the quiet chamber with the wooden box resting on the stone table. The soft beam of sunlight from the ceiling made the carvings on the box glow gently. He felt as if the mountain itself asked him to open it with respect. He took one calm breath, placed both hands on the lid, and lifted it slowly. The hinges moved without sound, almost as if the box had been waiting for him. Inside the box, he saw a bundle of old letters tied with a thin cloth ribbon. The paper looked aged but cared for. The edges were worn, yet the writing on the visible letter remained clear. Beside the bundle, there was a small handmade pendant shaped like a leaf. It was carved from wood and polished until it shone faintly in the soft light. Ravi touched the pendant gently. It felt smooth and warm under his fingers. He wondered who had carved it and why it had been placed inside the box. Something about it felt comforting, as if it carried the warmth of its maker. Ravi set the pendant carefully aside and focused on the letters. He untied the ribbon and picked up the first letter. The handwriting was simple and neat. Each stroke of the pen looked patient, steady, and full of thought. He held the letter close and began to read. The letter opened with a greeting to anyone who might one day find it. The writer introduced himself as a person who once lived peacefully on the mountain slopes many years ago. The writer spoke about the mountain with deep affection, describing it as a friend that brought calm during quiet mornings and strength during difficult times. Ravi's heart softened at the gentle tone. The letter continued with descriptions of blooming flowers, soft rain on stone, and sunlight that made the mountain look like a sleeping giant of gold. As Ravi read on, he felt the writer's love for the mountain in every line. The writer explained that he had chosen to build a small tomb not as a place of sadness, but as a place to keep memories safe. He wrote that he wanted future visitors to understand that the greatest treasures were not riches or grand monuments, but simple joys, quiet moments, and thoughts shared with kindness. Ravi paused for a moment and looked around the chamber. The stillness felt warm. The air seemed filled with the writer's emotions. Ravi picked up the second letter and opened it carefully. This letter described the writer's family, who had lived in harmony with nature. The writer explained that his family never wanted to change the mountain. Instead, they believed in caring for it. They planted trees where the soil was thin, cleaned small streams when they became blocked, and treated every living thing with respect. The writer shared small stories of caring for injured birds, protecting delicate flowers, and guiding travelers who lost their way. None of the stories were grand, yet each one felt deeply meaningful. The writer had lived a life of gentle purpose, one that touched others quietly without expecting praise. Ravi continued reading, and with each letter he grew more connected to the writer. He felt as though he was speaking with an old friend he had never met, someone who saw the world with the same peaceful eyes Ravi carried in his own heart. The third letter spoke of a special tradition the writer had created with his family. They would gather at the top of Silver Ridge Mountain during the first sunrise of each new season. They called it the Morning of Promise. During this gathering, they would share small wishes for the world. They wished for good health, for kindness, and for harmony between people and nature. They believed that speaking these wishes aloud while standing in the light of a new season helped spread gentle hope across the land. Ravi smiled softly as he imagined the family standing together on the peak, holding hands as sunlight touched their faces. The picture felt warm and beautiful. He felt grateful that the writer had chosen to share such personal memories. The fourth letter surprised him with a different tone. It began with gratitude for the mountain and all the lessons it had taught the writer, but then it spoke of time passing. The writer explained that his family had slowly moved away through the years. Some had settled in other valleys for work. Others had followed their dreams to different towns. The writer did not describe any sorrow or regret. Instead, he expressed pride in their courage to explore new paths. He wrote that he had decided to remain on the mountain because it felt like home. He found comfort in the whisper of trees and the gentle flow of streams. He wrote about watching the sky change colors each evening while sitting by the same rock where he had played as a child. He spoke of warm memories like old friends who returned again and again. Ravi felt a quiet ache in his chest, not from sadness, but from the beauty of a life lived with sincere care. He could almost picture the writer sitting by the rock, smiling softly as the sun dipped behind the distant hills. He reached for the next letter. This one was longer and seemed more personal. The writer shared thoughts about the meaning of kindness. He wrote that kindness did not always have to be a grand gesture. It could be something small, like sharing water with someone who forgot their bottle, planting a tree along a lonely path, or sitting with another person when they felt tired. Kindness was a gentle light, he wrote, one that could brighten any day. Ravi breathed slowly, letting those words settle inside him. He thought about how many small acts of kindness he had seen in his own life. A neighbor who shared vegetables from her garden, children who helped an older man carry firewood, or his own mother, who never let anyone feel left out during festivals. These memories filled his heart with warmth. He continued reading. The letter ended by asking the future reader to carry this gentle idea of kindness into their own life. The writer believed that if even one person chose to live with a peaceful heart, the world would feel lighter. Ravi placed the letter down very carefully, as if it were something fragile. He closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing the message. He felt a deep respect for the writer. The writer had lived a life of calm purpose, and these letters were like shared breaths of wisdom that crossed time. He picked up another letter, though there were still many more in the bundle. This letter described a hidden place on the mountain that the writer had loved. It was a small clearing near a stream where sunlight fell in soft patterns. The writer said he often visited the clearing to sit and think. He described the clearing as a place where thoughts grew clear and the mind felt light. He wrote that he hoped one day someone else would find that spot and feel the same peace. He had Ravi made a silent promise to search for the clearing later. The idea of sitting where the writer once sat filled him with excitement. He imagined the sunlight shining through leaves and swaying patterns and the soft sound of water moving gently over stones. The next letter explained how the small tomb had been built. The writer had chosen a simple design, believing that simplicity brought honesty. He built the chamber with stones from the mountain itself, shaping each stone with care. The carvings were simple and meaningful. The writer said he carved the symbol of two hands holding a flower because it represented gentle intention. The hands symbolized support and connection. The flower symbolized life, hope, and growth. Ravi looked up at the carved symbol on the chamber wall and studied it again. Now that he understood its meaning, the symbol felt even softer and more beautiful. He felt grateful for the writer's thoughtful creativity. He returned to the letters. One letter spoke of changes the writer had seen in the village below the mountain. New families had moved in. Young children played in open fields. People learned to grow more crops and take better care of the land. The writer believed that the village would continue to grow with harmony as long as they respected the mountain and its natural gifts. Ravi felt pride swell in his heart. His own village had indeed grown through the years. New homes had been built, but people still cared for nature. They planted trees during festivals and kept the river clean. The writer would be pleased to see how the village had honored the values he cherished. He continued through the letters. Some were short, no more than a page. Others were longer, filled with detailed reflections. Together, they painted a picture of a gentle life lived with quiet joy. The writer cherished simple things like the sound of rain on leaves, the glow of the moon on a clear night, or the warmth of holding a cup of tea while sitting outside. Ravi felt moved by the simple beauty of these memories. They reminded him of moments from his own life that he sometimes forgot to appreciate. He remembered evenings spent sitting under the big tree in his village, listening to the wind sing through the branches. He remembered mornings when he watched the sun rise behind the hills while holding a steaming cup of tea. These moments were small, yet they made life feel full. Finally, he reached the last letter in the bundle. This letter felt special even before he opened it. The paper was softer, and the handwriting looked slightly slower, as if the writer had taken extra time to shape each word with care. The letter was a message to the person who would one day enter the tomb. It began with a greeting of warmth and gratitude. The writer thanked the reader for taking time to discover the hidden chamber. He expressed hope that the reader felt peaceful while reading the letters. The writer said that he had created this place to remind future visitors that life could be gentle and meaningful when lived with intention. He asked the reader to carry the lessons of kindness, gratitude, and respect into the world beyond the mountain. Ravi stood at the base of Silver Ridge Mountain, looking up at the winding path that curved into the thick green forest. The morning sun warmed his face, and the quiet rustle of leaves made him feel peaceful. Silver Ridge Mountain had always been known for its gentle slopes and beautiful views, yet many parts of it remained unexplored. Villagers often talked about hidden streams, rare flowers, and strange old stones tucked deep within the hills. These stories inspired Ravi to explore the mountain more seriously every year. Ravi was a simple man who enjoyed the slow and calm things in life. He worked at a small shop in the village and spent most of his free time walking in nature. He loved the songs of birds, the soft wind across grass, and the comfort he felt when he stepped away from the noise of daily life. Climbing the mountain was not an attempt to prove strength or bravery. For him, it was a way to breathe freely and think clearly. This morning felt special. There was silence all around, not a cold silence, but a warm one that made the air feel full of promise. Ravi carried only a small bag with water, fruit, a notebook, and a simple rope that he rarely needed. As he walked forward, he felt a spark of excitement in his chest. He could not explain why, but he sensed that something meaningful waited for him higher up. The path began with a gentle rise. Birds hopped across branches, greeting the day with cheerful calls. The light made the trees glow with soft gold, and every leaf seemed to shine with freshness. Ravi found himself smiling as he walked, enjoying the feeling of calm support that nature always gave him. He breathed slowly, noticing the smell of damp soil and the sweet scent of wildflowers. A few hundred steps later, the forest thickened. Tall trees stretched above him, forming a quiet green ceiling. Sunlight slipped through the branches in narrow beams that danced across the path. Whenever the wind moved, the beams shifted like soft-moving threads. Ravi slowed his steps to admire the beauty. He loved how the forest changed with every new turn. He soon reached a narrow bend where the path split in two. One trail led to a familiar resting stone that hikers often used. The other trail was overgrown with grass and almost hidden between two bushes. Ravi had never taken the hidden trail before. He stepped closer to examine it. There were old marks on a few rocks at the trail entrance, almost like a sign that someone had once used it long ago. He knelt, touched the rock, and felt that it was smooth on one side from years of weather. The hidden trail pulled him in with quiet mystery. Instead of choosing the familiar path, he turned toward the forgotten one. The ground felt soft and untouched. Tall grass brushed lightly against his legs, and small insects flew lazily among the blades. Ravi moved slowly, careful not to disturb anything. He loved the feeling of being a respectful visitor. The forest did not belong to him, yet it welcomed him in its own gentle way. As he walked deeper, the trail narrowed even more. Branches leaned into the path, guiding him like gentle arms. He moved them aside and kept walking. Every few minutes he paused to listen. Water trickled somewhere in the distance, and the sound gave him comfort. He followed the faint noise until he reached a small stream hidden under a low arch of vines. The water was crystal clear, running over stones so smooth they looked polished. Ravi knelt beside the stream and cupped cool water in his hands. The fresh taste felt like morning in its purest form. After a short rest, he crossed the stream using a fallen tree trunk. It was sturdy enough to hold his weight, though it wobbled slightly. Once safely across, he continued upward, noticing how the air grew thinner and cooler. The forest became quieter too. Birds still called, but from far away. The wind carried their voices softly. Ravi soon reached a wide slope covered in ferns. Their long green leaves curled gracefully, some brushing his shoulders as he passed. The ground here was uneven, with smooth stones half hidden under the plants. While stepping over a large stone, he noticed something strange. The ground beneath his foot did not feel like usual solid earth. Instead, it felt hollow. He stopped and stepped back. Then he pressed the spot again. The same hollow sound reached his ears. It was faint but clear. Curious, he crouched down and brushed aside the ferns. Under a thick patch of moss, he found a flat slab of stone. It had straight edges that no natural rock should have. The shape looked too clean and too even. His heart skipped a beat. It looked like a hidden structure. He cleared more moss and leaves from the stone. As he did, a rectangular outline began to appear. It was as if something had been built under the slope long ago. The stone's surface was old and cracked, and small roots had grown across it over time. Ravi ran his fingers across it gently, feeling the cool texture. He wondered who had placed it there and why. Beside the stone slab, he noticed a cluster of vines that seemed unusually thick. With both hands, he carefully pulled the vines aside. Behind them, hidden completely from view, was an opening in the ground. The opening was just wide enough for a person to fit through. The inside looked dark, but a faint line of light glowed from deep within, almost like sunlight reaching a chamber below. Ravi's breath caught gently in his chest. He was not frightened. Instead, he felt a sense of wonder. This was not something he found every day. The mountain had offered him a secret, one that had waited quietly under earth and plants. He realized that he was the first person in many years to see this hidden doorway. He sat down for a moment, letting the discovery sink in. He remembered the old stories that elders in the village used to tell. Some stories spoke of small tombs built by people long ago who lived simple lives close to nature. These tombs were not built to honor wealth or power. Instead, they held memories, letters, and symbols meant to inspire kindness and respect. Ravi had never seen one himself. Most people believed such stories were only gentle myths. Now, looking at the opening before him, Ravi felt that he might have found something related to those stories. The opening did not look frightening or cold. It looked peaceful, almost like a doorway into a forgotten moment of history. He felt drawn to it and wanted to understand it better. Before going inside, Ravi took a deep breath. He made sure the ground around the opening was steady. Then he grabbed a small branch and tested the depth. The bottom did not seem too far down. He could climb in if he was careful. He drank some water, took out a small cloth to clean his hands, and checked his bag. The rope might be useful, so he tied one end to a sturdy tree root near the entrance. He lowered himself slowly into the opening. The cool air wrapped around him. His feet touched the floor gently, and he stood inside a narrow stone corridor. The walls were built with smooth stones placed carefully in rows. Even after many years, the structure held firm. A soft beam of natural light entered from a small crack in the ceiling. Guiding his steps forward, Ravi moved quietly, not wanting to disturb the peaceful silence. The corridor led to a wider chamber. The chamber was simple but graceful. A single stone table stood at the center. Dust lay across it like a thin blanket. On the far wall, he saw a carved symbol. It showed two hands holding a small flower. The symbol was delicate and calming. It made the chamber feel warm and gentle. Ravi took slow steps toward the table. His heart felt full, as if he were stepping into a part of the mountain's soul. The air carried a soft scent of old wood, stone, and earth. It was not unpleasant. It reminded him of pages from old books or wooden boxes that had kept memories. Safe for years, he reached the stone table and noticed a wooden box placed on top. The box was old, but still intact. Its surface was covered in thin lines that looked like simple carvings. The design was not fancy, yet it showed care and thought. Ravi touched the lid lightly and felt the smoothness of the wood. His hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from the feeling that he had stepped into something meaningful. He felt connected to the unknown person who had built this place. He felt connected to the mountain more deeply than ever before. Ravi stood silently for a moment, letting the calmness of the chamber fill him. He knew that whatever was inside the box had been placed there with love and intention. He knew this discovery would change everything he understood about the mountain he admired so deeply. Ravi stood in the silent chamber, holding the final letter from the wooden box. The soft paper felt light in his hands, yet the words inside carried a weight that touched his heart deeply. For a long moment he stared at the writing, trying to understand the gentle mind of the person who had left such messages in this hidden tomb. The calm air of the chamber seemed to embrace him, and he felt a sense of peace spreading inside him. The letter began with a greeting to any visitor who might one day discover the humble tomb. It spoke in a warm and sincere voice. The writer thanked the reader simply for caring enough to step inside this quiet place. The writer said that only a person with a kind and patient heart would have taken the time to notice the hidden doorway behind the vines. The writer believed that people like that deserved encouragement and kindness. The message was simple, honest, and full of gentle hope. As Ravi read the words, he felt as if someone long gone was speaking directly to him. The letter explained that the tomb was not meant to be a place of fear. It was a small chamber built out of love and respect. The writer said the mountain had been their favorite home, a place that had taught them patience, gratitude, and quiet joy. They believed that nature had a way of healing the heart, and they hoped the tomb would help others feel that same goodness. The writer had spent many quiet seasons on the mountain, watching the sky change colors each morning and evening. They had listened to the wind moving through the trees and felt peace in every small rustle of leaves. They wanted the tomb to be a place where someone else could also find calmness and comfort. Ravi continued reading and felt his chest grow warm. The next part of the letter spoke about kindness. The writer believed that even the smallest kind act could change the world in ways that were not always visible, but always meaningful. A person might smile at someone, help a stranger, protect a tree, or show respect to a place. And all these actions would create a quiet chain of goodness. The writer said a human heart is shaped not by big achievements, but by gentle choices made every day. These lines filled Ravi with deep admiration. The letter then shared a story from the writer's life. The writer had once met a traveler who seemed tired and lost. The traveler spoke little but carried heavy worry in his eyes. The writer offered him water and a warm place to rest near the mountain. The traveler stayed for a short time, then left feeling lighter and calmer. Before leaving, he told the writer that the simple kindness he received had given him hope during a difficult time. The writer never forgot that moment. It reminded them that small gestures of care could bring comfort in ways the giver might never fully understand. This story made Ravi reflect on his own life. He wondered how many times he had missed simple chances to bring comfort to others. The letter continued with gentle advice. It said that every person carries a story inside them. Some stories are filled with struggle, some with joy, and some with quiet dreams that never find words. The writer believed that, by treating one another with respect, people could help these stories grow in healthy and meaningful ways. Ravi found this thought beautiful. He felt grateful that he had discovered this tomb, for it was teaching him something far more valuable than he had expected when he began climbing the mountain that morning. The next part of the letter was written with careful emotion. The writer shared that their life had not been grand in a worldly sense. They had no riches, no fame, and no great achievements to be recorded. Instead, they had spent their days learning from the simple beauty of the mountain. They watched plants grow, seasons change, and sunlight move over the peaks each day. They believed that the true purpose of life was not to be known by the world, but to live with sincerity. By building the tomb and leaving the letters, the writer hoped that their quiet life would continue to offer something good. Even after they were gone, Ravi felt a soft ache in his heart. It was not a painful ache, but a tender one, filled with respect for the writer. He could almost imagine the person sitting on the mountain years ago, writing these letters with a calm expression and a gentle smile. They had not wanted recognition. They had simply wanted to give a small gift of kindness to anyone who found the tomb. Their humility touched Ravi deeply. He found himself whispering a quiet thank you to the unknown writer, even though he knew they could not hear him, as he read further. The letter described the symbol of the two hands holding a small flower carved on the wall behind the stone table. The writer said the hands represented care and the flower represented life. Together they formed the symbol of gentle strength. The writer believed that true strength does not come from force or control. It comes from understanding, patience, and compassion. They hoped that anyone who saw the symbol would remember that message and carry it into the world. Ravi looked up from the letter and studied the symbol again. In the soft light coming through the small crack in the ceiling, the carving seemed to shine with quiet meaning. The two hands looked calm, and steady. The flower between them looked fragile, yet full of hope. Ravi felt that the symbol fit perfectly with the message of the letter. He placed his hand gently on the wall near the carving and closed his eyes for a moment. The stone felt cool under his skin, and he imagined the writer carving it with careful patience many years ago. When Ravi continued reading, he found that the letter offered guidance for the future. The writer asked that any visitor protect the mountain in whatever small ways they could. They encouraged the reader to respect the land, the trees, the animals, and the fresh air. They believed that nature was a teacher and a friend, and that humans had a responsibility to care for it. The writer wished that people would learn to walk gently on the earth, leaving only footprints of kindness behind them. These words stayed in Ravi's mind for a long time. He realized that he had always appreciated nature, but he had not always been mindful of his actions. The letter made him rethink the way he lived. The letter then spoke about gratitude. The writer said that gratitude was one of the most powerful feelings a person could hold. It could turn even an ordinary moment into something meaningful. The writer encouraged the reader to be grateful for simple things, like a warm sunrise, a cool breeze, a kind word, or a helpful friend. They believed that gratitude made the heart lighter and the world brighter. Reading this, Ravi felt grateful for the quiet mountain morning, for the hidden tomb, for the sincere letters, and for the chance to reflect on his life. As the letter neared its end, the writer shared one final thought. They said that life is a journey filled with moments of discovery. Some discoveries are large and exciting, while others are small and gentle. The writer hoped that anyone who found the tomb would carry the spirit of discovery with them. They encouraged the reader to look for goodness in every place and in every person. The writer believed that when someone searches for goodness, they will always find something worth holding in their heart. With steady hands, Ravi read the closing lines of the letter. The writer said they wished peace to the reader and hoped that the tomb would become a quiet memory that brought comfort in the future. They thanked the reader once more for visiting and for taking the time to understand the letters. The message ended with a simple wish for the reader to go forward with a heart full of kindness. Ravi stood silently, holding the letter close. He felt an overwhelming sense of connection to the writer, even though they had never met. The sincerity of the words had touched him deeply. He felt as if he had been given a rare and precious gift. It was not a gift made of gold or jewels, but a gift made of wisdom and warmth. This gift would stay with him long after he left the mountain. He took a deep breath and looked around the chamber again. The stone walls felt alive with meaning. The wooden box with the letters seemed almost sacred now. The sunlight shining through the ceiling felt like a gentle blessing. Ravi felt a calm joy spreading through him. He knew that he had changed. Something inside him had grown softer, kinder, and more aware. Ravi slowly placed the letter back into the box, treating it with the respect it deserved. He tied the ribbon gently and set the box back exactly where he had found it. He wanted the tomb to remain untouched for the next visitor, just as it had been for him. He stepped back and gave the chamber one last quiet look. Then he turned toward the doorway, ready to step out into the open air and carry the heartfelt truth of the letters with him. Ravi stepped out of the quiet tomb with slow and thoughtful steps. When the cool air of the mountain touched his face, it felt fresh and full of life. He blinked as the sunlight washed over him. The world outside looked brighter than before, as if the mountain itself had opened its heart to him. He paused on the ledge and took a deep breath. The wind carried the scent of pine trees and wildflowers, and it felt like the mountain was giving him a gentle welcome back. For a long moment, Ravi simply stood there, stunned by how deeply the letters had touched him. The words of the unknown writer were still echoing in his mind. Every sentence he had read seemed to circle around his heart, reminding him of kindness, gratitude, and respect for nature. As he stood under the sky, a warm wave of emotion rose within him. He felt his eyes sting with tears again, and this time he did not try to stop them. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of understanding, appreciation, and quiet joy. Ravi sat on a large, flat rock near the entrance of the tomb. From there, he could see the canyon below and the long stretch of sky above. Birds were gliding gently across the air, moving slowly as if sharing in the calmness he felt. The The world looked peaceful and wide. Ravi remembered how he had climbed the mountain earlier that day with energy and excitement. He had been curious and restless then. Now he felt calm and settled, as if something inside him had become clearer. He thought about the writer of the letters. He imagined a kind and thoughtful person sitting in the same place many years ago. Perhaps they had sat under the same sky, listening to the same wind. Maybe they had written the letters while feeling grateful for the beauty around them. Ravi wondered what kind of life the writer had lived. He did not know their name or where they had come from, but he knew their heart. The letters spoke of a gentle soul who believed in kindness, patience, and respect for nature. Ravi felt honored to have discovered their resting place as he sat on the rock. He remembered the part of the letter that spoke about gratitude. The writer had said that gratitude was one of the most powerful feelings a person could have. Ravi looked around at the mountains, the trees, the endless sky, and he felt that truth deeply. Every detail around him looked like a gift. The soft breeze brushing past his cheeks, the warm sunlight on his skin, and the peaceful silence of the place all felt precious. He felt grateful for this moment, grateful for the discovery, and grateful for the writer who had left such sincere words for someone like him to find Ravi. Closed his eyes and let the wind brush over him. He felt lighter than he had in months. Lately, his life had been full of noise and stress. Responsibilities had piled up, and he had been carrying silent worries in his heart. He had not realized how tense he had become. But here on the mountain, near this hidden tomb, he felt those worries float away. The letters had reminded him that even in a busy world, small moments of kindness and peace could make life feel whole again. After a while, Ravi stood up and looked back at the tomb. The vines still hung around the doorway, almost hiding it completely. The tomb looked like a natural part of the mountain, calm and unbothered. Ravi smiled softly. He promised himself that he would respect the tomb and keep its location secret unless someone with a truly good heart needed to find it. He felt that the tomb was not meant to be disturbed by careless hands. It was a place for reflection and gratitude, a place meant to be found only by those who approached it with sincerity. Ravi touched the stone wall near the entrance one last time. The surface felt cool and smooth under his fingertips. He bowed his head slightly, offering a quiet moment of respect to the writer. Then he turned and began walking back along the narrow path he had taken earlier. His steps were slow and steady. He wanted to take his time and absorb the peaceful feeling that filled him as he walked. He noticed details he had not paid attention to before. Small green plants grew between rocks. Delicate flowers bloomed along the edges of the trail. The mountain goat tracks on the dust-covered path looked like soft reminders of the wildlife that lived here. Everything looked meaningful and full of quiet beauty. The writer had said that nature was a teacher. Ravi now understood that message clearly. The mountain taught patience, calmness, appreciation for small wonders. After walking for some time, Ravi reached a wide-open viewpoint where he could see the valley below. Villages dotted the land, and small houses looked like colorful specks from this height. A river flowed through the valley, shining under the light like a silver ribbon. Ravi felt an overwhelming sense of connection. He felt connected to the land, the sky, the mountain, the writer of the letters, and even the people living far below. The mountain had opened his heart in a way he had not expected. He sat at the edge of the viewpoint and remembered a line from the final letter. The writer had said that a single kind action could create a chain of goodness. Ravi thought about that idea. He wondered how he could carry this chain forward into his own life. He wanted to do something meaningful, something that honored the writer's message. He decided that when he returned home, he would make simple changes. He would be more patient with others, more thoughtful in his actions, and more respectful toward nature. He knew these were small steps, but he also knew that the writer believed small steps could change the world in gentle ways. Ravi stayed at the viewpoint for a long time. Thinking about how much he had learned from the tomb, he thought about how he had come here looking for adventure, but had found something far more valuable. He realized that true adventure was not always about climbing the highest peak or reaching difficult places. Sometimes it was about discovering new truths inside oneself. The tomb had helped him discover those truths. It had shown him the importance of humility, gratitude, and kindness. Eventually, the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long, gentle rays across the mountain. The soft, golden light filled the valley and made the world look warm and serene. Ravi stood up and prepared to continue his journey down the mountain. He felt peaceful, as if he was carrying a quiet light inside him, a light that the writer had given him through their letters as he descended. He passed a group of bright green trees swaying softly in the wind. The sound of their leaves rustling reminded him of the calm voice he had imagined for the writer. He smiled quietly and felt tears rise again, but these tears were filled with deep gratitude. He realized that the writer, though long gone, had reached across time and touched his heart in a profound way. This was the kind of connection that lived beyond years and places. This was the kind of kindness that left a lasting mark. When he finally reached the lower part of the mountain, the ground became more level. The path widened, and the familiar sounds of the valley grew clearer. Birds chirped in the trees, and the soft murmur of the river filled the air. Life around him felt peaceful and alive. Ravi felt refreshed, as if he had stepped out of a long dream with new understanding. He reached the base of the mountain. Just as the evening light settled over the land, the sky was painted with shades of orange, gold, and pale blue. Ravi stopped for a moment to take in the view. The day had been long, but every moment of it felt meaningful. He lifted his face toward the sky and allowed the calm air to wash over him. His heart felt full. Ravi knew that he would remember this day for the rest of his life. He knew he would return to this mountain again, not to explore deeper tombs or discover hidden secrets, but simply to honor the memory of the person who had left the letters. The writer had given him something precious, something more valuable than gold or treasure. They had given him kindness, wisdom, a new way of seeing the world. The mountain stood tall behind him, steady and peaceful. The tomb rested quietly within its walls, holding its message for the next heart that needed it. Ravi walked home carrying the gentle truth he had learned, ready to share kindness with the world, one small step at a time.